Good morning and welcome on this very, very rainy day. So it brought a lot of people in and we're excited about that. So you can spend some time here and find out a little bit about planting, some very interesting topics that we're going to cover today, as well as the Expo. So this is our first annual Expo. It's not only the city of Centerville, specifically the City Beautiful Commission, but also with the heart of Centerville. So we've expanded, we've grown, and we're in this absolutely stunning facility. We are so fortunate to have an asset like this in the city of Centerville, thanks to Sinclair Community College. It's not only a higher ed, but it's also for multi-purpose. That being said, we have an exciting agenda, like I shared with you. Members of our CBC are located all over as they're directing people in. But when we have a little bit of a transition, I'll make sure I introduce all our members. That being said, we have a number of Master Gardeners here. Please note that this is considered a continuing education credit, so you need to do your due diligence after the seminar to make sure that that is noted on your profile. Additionally, thank you to Sinclair. We do have refreshments in the back. And of course, we have our raffles. So year-round, our CBC has many events, but two most notable, and one very large one coming up, and that's our landscaping awards. And those will happen July, August, September. We're extending that to October so we can also get in all the fall decor that you have.
Morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jotham Smith. I'm a service leader for the City of Centerville Public Works Department. I get to oversee horticulture and arboriculture for the city. It's one of my great passions. There are some of my credentials. We won't dwell too long on them. Just know that I've worked in the green industry and maintaining green spaces for the better part of my life in both private sector and public sector. I enjoy it very much. I think you can tell by the pictures up there that I work with a fantastic group of people. We wear many hats. We carry out everything from your refuse collection to leaf collection, snow and ice control, maintenance of roadways and green spaces, and the list goes on. So there's a lot of variety with the job. Shameless plug, if you know someone who's interested in working outside, working with their hands, working with equipment, and likes variety in what they do, we have a couple positions posted on the city's website. If you are someone or know someone who's interested in that, please share that knowledge. So I'm passionate about horticulture for sure. Where I derive much of that passion is from my little family. We love spending time outside, time gardening. I'm going to get up on my soapbox for just a second in here and encourage you and implore you that if you have young people in your life and you are passionate about gardening, passionate about horticulture, and you must be to some degree because you're here, share that with them. Share that with the young people in your life. I've known few greater joys in my life than watching my kid pull a foot-long carrot from the ground when it was barely a speck on the tip of her finger just months before, and she planted it. She tended it, she weeded it, and then just getting to see the results of that was a beautiful thing. So share that with the young people in your life. Screens are necessary in our life, absolutely. I wouldn't be able to give this presentation in this way without screens, but don't leave the young people inside falling prey to those screens. Bring them outside, help share this joy with them. All right, I'm going to come off my high horse on that now, because you're here to hear about foundation plantings, right? Now, foundation plantings, the quick and loose definition is really in the name, right? They're plantings that are going right around the foundation of a structure, around your house, barn, outbuilding, garage, whatever. They're directly adjacent to a structure. And we won't dwell on that definition long because honestly, you can Google it in 5 seconds and find all sorts of fascinating articles on concepts behind foundation planting. But really, they're plant material that acts as a transition from the harsher, more rigid lines of a structure to the softer, more flowing and natural lines of your landscape. So they are those plantings right up next to the foundation. But what we're going to do is paint a little word picture for you. We're going to pretend we're going to go all the way back to the 80s. Let's say the late 80s. Now, I was born in 88, so I missed a lot of the action and adventure of the 80s. I was really only on the tail end of it. Some of you may have experienced it firsthand. So you remember. Let's say a day comes about in the 80s. Beautiful day. You just wake up, you're feeling particularly photogenic, and you decide that's the day. This is the day I'm going to get those glamour shots done. Or maybe I'll rope the whole family into it. We'll go in, get those family portraits taken. So what do? Naturally, You hop in that wood-sided station wagon, that Oldsmobile like this. They don't make them like that anymore. Isn't that a beauty? It's classic. And you go to the one place on earth that'll satisfy all your shopping needs. Anything you need, all in one location in the late 80s, the mall, the shopping mall, in its prime, in its heyday, before the advent of online shopping has sadly brought it to its knees, right? You can find everything there. So naturally, you can find a photography studio there. So you get there, and then the hard decisions start coming into play, decisions that are going to affect how these pictures turn out, right? For one, do you bring your pet? Is Mr. Whiskers, is he going to behave? Is he going to claw your eyes out? Is it worth the risk? That's a tough decision to make. Do you bring the whole family and make them pose? This picture blows my mind because I have 2 daughters, and getting them to smile on cue for a picture is almost impossible. So how they got all 7 children to line up and pose and smile, I'll never know. Hats off to those parents. Do I bring a prop? Do I bring that cinder block cell phone from the late 80s, right? To show that I'm a businessman. I get things done. I'm businesslike, but I'm smiling, I'm laughing. So I know how to have fun. I get things done, still have a good time. Or, it's the 80s. So the question is not whether there's going to be a mullet, but what intensity are we going to set that mullet to? Now, obviously, this guy has gone all in on that mullet mustache combo. It's powerful there. But probably the most important decision you're going to make, or one of the most, is what's your backdrop's going to be? What's going to be in the background? Now, today, in photography, many of our backdrops are fairly calm. They're muted, they're subdued. And the mindset behind these is obvious. You want to focus more on what's on the foreground. You don't want that background to be distracting. So we keep them pretty calm. But not in the 80s. Not in the 80s. If you want the pink polka dots with the weird shapes and, I don't know, chocolate sprinkles in the background, I'm not sure what that is. You want that, we've got it. You want the rainbow zigzag, you can have it. If you want Dad's ethereal head floating around in the background with all the rest of the family in the foreground, this is probably from a prior decade, honestly, but it definitely held on into the 80s. We can do it. And I'm not making fun of anybody here. If you've got family photos like this from past decades, we all do. This was the thing to do at the time. But that's an option. And obviously lasers. You're going to have the lasers in the 80s from the side, from the middle. You want to feel like you live in Tron? We got you. So when it comes to your foundation planting at your house, often it can be considered as a backdrop or a background to the other plant material that you're going to then put in the foreground. So the question becomes, how do I want that to look? Do I want it to pop? Do I want it exciting, just as exciting as the foreground? Take that 80s approach. Or do I want it more subdued, more calm, so you can focus on that plant material that's in the foreground? And really, that other foundation plant material is just kind of an extension of the structure. Well, I'm not here to dictate to you which way you should or shouldn't do, what's right, what's wrong, do this, not that, because horticulture is like anything with artistic merit. It's subjective. So different art moves people in different ways. We got this famous scene from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where his best friend is just drawn into the French Impressionist painter's work. He feels it, and it speaks to him on a very deep level. Art is subjective, so what works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. What we are going to talk about today is the importance of planning your foundation planting around your home. That's a big one. The challenges that you're likely to run into when you're planning and implementing your foundation planting, and why we see so much repetition with plant material when it comes to our Southwest Ohio landscapes. So first of all, we're back to the 80s again, planning. Got Hannibal there with the A-team. I love it when a plan comes together. They very seldom had a plan, but they always made things work. When it comes to the foundation planting around your home, planning is of paramount importance for many reasons. For one thing, you need to consider what mature size that plant material is going to get to for a number of reasons. This is a picture I've taken in my community when I walk my dog. And I've blurred out the number plate there just to protect the identities of the innocent here. But most of the houses in our community were built in the 60s. And this cottonwood tree, a fairly fast-growing tree, has a source of water, and it was allowed to grow after the construction of this home and grow to the point that I didn't want to be the creepy guy walking up in their yard to see whether it was touching the gutter, but it was really close to the gutter. And this, Lord knows what's going on with the foundation underneath that house based on this tree being right up against it. But I know, just looking from the street, there are a number of limbs hanging up over the roof of that house that are eventually going to come down one way or the other. So this is an extreme example, but when it comes to your plant material that you're going to put around the foundation of your house, you want to know what that mature size is going to be. Because in most cases, you don't want to have to be out there hard pruning it all the time. That's harder on the plant material. And it's not going to let it reach its full potential. Now, if you've been passionate about horticulture long enough, and you're like me, the day's going to come, if it hasn't already, when you're wandering around the garden center and you just spot that plant. Man, it's the blooms are beautiful, or the foliage it just speaks to you, just like we saw with that slide with Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And you realize in that moment, I'm going to have to take that plant home. It's coming home with me. And then your spouse, if you're like me, who's more level-headed, asks you that important question, well, where's it going to go? To which the ground is going to go in the ground, or a pot. Sometimes the answer is a pot, but that's my cheater answer. You can use it if you want. It's going to go in the ground. You're going to find a place for it. If it speaks to you on that level, it's like a puppy at the pound. It's going to come home with you one way or the other, and you're going to find a place for it. It's easier to get away with that when you're talking about proximity plantings around a property than foundation plantings. Because really, unless you give those foundation plantings a chance to get established and reach their full potential, you're just spinning your wheels. Because what often happens is as you plant plants in the foreground, even if it's a perennial that just gets a couple feet tall, if you don't allow that foundation planting to reach its 3 or 4 feet, you won't even see it over the top of those perennials. So planting is of paramount importance, and it will save you money in the long run. Now here's my safety spiel. If you're going to just pop a few small perennials or annuals in the ground with a hand trowel, don't worry about this. But if you're going to do like we do at Centerville Public Works and be putting in some major trees, some bald and burlap trees, please make use of the 811 service to protect yourself, to protect the utilities around your home. It can be very expensive and time consuming if you hit something around your house, be it a gas line, information cable, or whatever. And you might think, well, I know it's 3 or 4 feet down there. Ideally, yes, but erosion over the years can change that. So protect yourself and work to protect that infrastructure. Now, there are many environmental challenges when it comes to planting foundation plantings around your home and helping that plant material survive and thrive. There are some instances, I'll say rare instances, where being directly adjacent to a structure is beneficial to a plant. There's a client I've been to out in Beaver Creek that has a brick-sided home in very close proximity to an asphalt driveway, and they have canna planted in between. If you know anything about canna, it doesn't typically survive our winters out here. You got to dig up the tubers. You got to bring them inside in either wood shavings or peat moss and mist them with some water and some fungicide to get them through the winter. Not at this house. The warmth radiating off of that brick and off of that asphalt driveway, they just come up on their own every year. I'm a little jealous, to be honest. In other instances, you might have plant material on the east or northern sides of your house where it's blocked from some of those harsher winter winds. So those are a couple beneficial aspects of being a foundation planting. But what we mostly see is challenges added from both wind, rain, and sunshine. The environment right up next to your structure is pretty much a microclimate. It can be different from the area 10 feet out from your house. It can be very different from the area 5 feet out from your house, simply because of overhangs from the roof, shading, or even added sun exposure. If you're on the south-facing portion of a home, you might pick plant material that can take sun all day long, but if it's right beneath plate glass windows or very lightly colored siding, that intensity can increase. And if you don't pick plant material that can stand up to that added sunlight or that added exposure, it can get burnt up. Awnings and overhangs are a big one. It can get very dry up next to the foundation of a house. And ideally, for a house, that's good. You know, we always, at your downspouts, that's why we put in corrugated lines and take that rainwater down your gutters, down the downspouts, out to your yard, into a pop out 30, 40, 50 feet away from the house. You don't want moisture collected up against the foundation of your home. But for plant material, that can make things very difficult because it needs some level of moisture. All plant material needs some level of moisture. What I've found is a good solution to that is either do some hand watering, or if you have a lot of foundation planting around your house, set up a timer with your soaker hoses or your drip lines So you don't run into that situation where you just turn it on manually and 3 or 4 hours goes by and you go down to do something in the basement and you see that flooding is starting to come in. That's not what you want. Soil health is another big issue right around the foundation of a home, because once again, it can be very different from what's going on even just a few feet out in your yard. When new houses are built, for the last probably 50 plus years, the method has been strip the land clean, remove all topsoil, roots, everything, and get down to just clay and gravel. That is the method, which once again is very good for the foundation of a house. It's a very sturdy medium to build a house in, but it doesn't leave much for plant material to thrive on. And that can be a very difficult thing for any plants. You can see here comes the bulldozer stripping off that topsoil. And it slows microbial activity. I've been to homes where right under the overhang of a roof, we've gone to mulch and found that, man, there's already layer after layer after layer of mulch already stacked up against this structure. And it's simply because you're not getting the level of moisture right up against that structure that you're getting several feet out where the rain's hitting it. You need that moisture for microbial activity to take effect, for that mulch to slowly break down and add to the organic matter in your soil. So we find right up against foundations of the home, it's drastically reduced. And if you're not watching out, it can turn into feet of mulch tucked up against the foundation of a house in just a few years. Now, a solution to this, one of the possible solutions is to collect a soil sample. If you think your soil health is lacking, collect a soil sample. The Ohio State Extension offices can take that, they'll analyze it and send you a printout. You will then have to find someone, if you can't read it yourself, to read that printout and see what macro and micronutrients your soil might be lacking in, and then know how to counteract that. I was listening to a soil scientist, I believe from Oregon, on a webinar just a few months ago through the EPA. And I had to put this down because he was asked the question, what would I do if I'm on a budget, or if I don't want to deal with sending in that soil sample? Is there just a quick fix? And honestly, not a perfect quick fix, but the solution he offered is add organic matter. Till in some compost, either leaf compost, cow manure compost, something to build up what we call the O horizon in the soil, that organic material that's needed for plants to really thrive. Most plant material needs some organic matter in that soil for it to not just survive, but thrive, to do well. So those are some of the challenges that you're going to find when you're planting right around the foundation of a structure. When you go driving through many of the neighborhoods here in Southwest Ohio, you'll notice that you'll be like Groundhog Day here. Miss Lancaster, do you ever have deja vu, right? And to which she kind of looked at him confused and said, well, I'll have to check with the kitchen, I'm not sure. You can feel like you're having a bit of deja vu when you drive through many of our landscapes, because you will see a lot of repetition, a lot of the same plant material again and again and again. You'll see your boxwoods, your arborvitae, your taxus, your juniper, and many others. You'll see burning bush often. Don't plant those. That's one thing I ask you not to plant. That's considered invasive to our Ohio woodlands now. Try not to plant any burning bush. But you'll see these again and again and again. Why? Well, it's because they're adaptive. They're relatively easy. Not everyone wants to be out there amending their soil, pruning when they need to. Some people are more satisfied with something that's just going to be consistent year after year after year, easy, adaptive, stand up to different weather conditions. Some of these boxwood can take anything from full sun almost to some fairly dense shade. It won't be as thick, it won't be as full and more dense shade, but it can survive it. So also evergreen color is a big one. These offer coverage year round. That's a big one for a lot of people. They want that coverage, they want that extension, if you will, of their structure all year round. And many of these, the boxwood and the taxus, take well to a quick shear every year. If you talk to a horticultural purist, they'll tell you to get in there and prune with pruning shears. But for most people, they're going to break out the power shears. They're going to shape them up a little bit and move on. And it's just the set it and forget it mindset. And that works for many people. And there's nothing wrong with that. For some of us, though, we want that 80s approach. Bring me that laser horizon. You want the showy, you want the floral, or at least somewhere in between, at least a mix of the two. And there are many options for that as well. Lilac, hydrangea, azalea, clethra. I love this one because I've gotten into beekeeping now, and that's a big pollinator favorite. Love the clethra. Japanese maple has been a big one for years now, and it likes some level of shade, but it's got some pop to it. Most of these will take some level of work of that soil. A lot of them, especially the azalea, the hydrangea, they prefer some slight acidity to the soil, so you're going to have to amend it in most cases. Unless you've had beds around your house that have been mulched and amended for year after, you're going to have to do some work. So the biggest takeaway, I'd say, from all of this, and what I want you to remember is, as you go through these Ohio landscapes, don't feel constrained by what you see other people doing in their landscapes. Don't feel limited. Feel free to explore, to learn, to find that piece of plant material that just speaks to you and you can't live without, and incorporate it into your landscape. But so don't feel constrained by those things, but do understand why we have a lot of repetition in foundation plantings, especially here in Southwest Ohio. Do understand why people have gone that route, and it's for the ease of it. So whether you go mild or wild, you go for the 80s approach and just go floral everything right around your foundation planting, or if you keep it simple, keep it concise, just some shaped boxwood and taxus, there's no right or wrong answer. It's what speaks to you. But do your research, make sure your planning is in order so that everything can thrive where you place it. And happy gardening.